So before we even start this video off, I just want to announce that we're giving a copy of this game away for free. That's right, a $30 game you could get for free, and all you have to do is sub, like, follow Accelerate Games on their social medias, and comment down below. And as long as you don't say anything bad about my grandma, you're entered into the contest. It also wouldn't hurt to watch the entire video, and trust me, I can tell. Anyway, war is many things. War is violence, war is death, war is loss, war is sadness, war is triumph, war is hell. But lost in all of those things, war is also strategy. Now, how do you get through all of that horrible stuff to get to the strategy? Well, you have a war with toys, and that's what really makes Toy Soldiers really cool. It's not one of those games where you could emotionally put yourself into a war, even though it does reenact a lot of the wars in World War I, replicating the battlefields, the weapons, the vehicles, and the fancy clothes. These boys knew how to dress back then. Now, at its heart, Toy Soldiers HD is a tower defense game, which if I'm being honest, I don't really like tower defense games, or at least I like a very few number of them. And one of the big reasons why I don't like tower defense games is because I don't feel like I have a lot of control over the battles that you're in. I feel like you're just setting things up and then letting it go, and how it plays out, it plays out. But I feel like you lose that human component. You know, I don't know why, but I assume I'm better than the computer, and I could make a bigger impact in the battle. And that's what I really like about Toy Soldiers HD, is that you can actually choose whatever unit you want to control and change the tide of battle. This comes in the form of many things. You can be a sniper, which is pretty cool. You don't make a lot of impact, but it's kind of cool and fun. You can also mow people down on the machine guns. You can control the mortars, the cannons, anti-air guns, all the way up to bombers and everything in between, which makes this game a lot of fun. Now, I will say, one thing that I didn't love was the control over the airplanes. For me, it's a little loose, but at the same time, I have to admit I'm not a great pilot, so I'm not the best representative to tell you how they control or not. But for me, the controls could just be a little bit tighter. But I have to admit, some of the dogfights and, strafing down a bunch of enemy soldiers trying to attack my defense team is just so much fun and so exhilarating. And this is one of those games that you play and the world around you kind of disappears. And I'm saying this as a father of two kids. Young kids, little kids that ruin things like football games and nights with your wife, all sorts of stuff. But this game is apparently more engaging than football or my wife, because I'm able to kind of ignore my kids while I'm playing this. I know, I'm Father of the Year. No, I'm just saying the world around you sort of goes away as you sink yourself into the strategy, as you're waiting for wave after wave of soldiers and planes and all sorts of stuff to come attack you. Because your biggest thing is to defend your toy box, which is basically the finish line for the enemy. And once they get there, they can take it all the way down to 0%, destroying your toy box and ultimately defeating you. So you set up different units around, and they're designated areas for said units. Now, you have a lot of control over which ones go where, but there are some that can only go in certain areas. Like the large cannons, they can only go in the bigger spaces. But on the flip side, if you want to take those large spaces and use them for different guns, you can actually just double up and maybe put a machine gun and a mortar there. And it's a pretty cool idea of how you really get to control how you set things up. Now, there is a couple instances where the battles are very, very specific on what units you have to have out there and what guns and weapons are especially effective against an enemy, specifically bosses. I've noticed this myself, as there's a boss early on that if you do not have a howitzer set up and you don't have multiple howitzers set up where you're actually controlling them and just bombarding this enemy with shells, it can be a little difficult. But that's what I mean by the strategy of the game at times requires you to use certain weapons. And, that makes sense because you're not going to be able to fight off gigantic vehicles coming at you with just like a machine gun, right? So a lot of that does add to the strategy of the game, which is what I really love and enjoy. When it comes to any form of game, I love strategy. It's just something about me that I really like. And even though most tower defense games do rely on a certain form of strategy, I still don't really like it just because that, like I said, that loss of control. But again, this game does offer that control and I really, really enjoy it. Now, as far as graphics, this game looks really good. I gotta be honest, I played a certain form of this game years ago. I think it was for the Xbox, I believe. And it was fine. but it kind of reminded me of like an N64 game. And it was cool, but like, again, a lot of the explosions and gunfire and things like that just kind of looked a little soft. It didn't look as sharp and as pronounced. But this, I am happily to report, looks amazing. It looks great. Like, that's part of how this just sucks you into the world, is you're seeing shells explode by you and enemies coming after you, weapons being fired everywhere, and it just really draws you into the battle, and it does such a good job of that by the graphics, by the details. It looks really, really good. And there's certain things, like when you're running the machine gun and you're reloading, you'll see like certain personnel that are also helping you reload. They're also just firing their handguns. It just adds to this whole world. And everything, like I said, is so detailed and wrapped up really nicely that it just looks great. And I have to say that graphically, I really appreciate what they've done here. That the other component of immersion in this game is the sound. The soldiers yelling back and forth, you can hear the vehicles, you can hear the explosions, the gunfire, all that stuff sounds really, really great. Now, I have to admit too, I don't usually play with sound on, and especially with this game, this is one of those that if you do have a sleeping child by you or a sleeping wife, you don't want to play it with the sound up too loud because it does get a little hectic and a little crazy. I also really like the artwork that's done in the loading screens, which is kind of the war propagandist, flyers from different militaries, French or American or wherever. And I just think that that's kind of cool that they added that. It's one of those things that you don't see included very often in war games. I just think it looks cool, and honestly it looks very accurate to that time. One of the things too that I really liked about the game was the fact that my 7-year-old son could play with me. We set up the multiplayer and had a lot of fun with both of our Switches, and sneakily there's a little bit of a learning element to it. He got to see what type of vehicles and weapons and things like that were used way back then. Now, he's not a military expert, he's 7 years old, so I don't let him play Call of Duty and stuff like that, but you can still get a feel for just the era in which this game took place. Now, the other thing I liked about it too was that there's no blood. So this game doesn't really come off as violent. In fact, my wife came in while we were playing and she was concerned a little bit. She was like, "Are you guys playing a war game?" And even my son was like, "Oh, don't worry. They're just toys. They're not people." And that is kind of cool because, again, these are type of games that you can't typically play with your kids just because of the violence. But it's a nice option that isn't Fortnite or Minecraft or something like that. And it honestly gets them thinking a little bit. Aside from all of those things, what's the negative about this game? Aside from the controls, and I gotta be honest, towards the end, there is a massive difficulty spike. Aside from that, nothing. The game runs really good. I had very few issues. There was maybe a stutter here or there when flying the airplane, but it wasn't anything like immersion breaking or anything like that, and it really only came with the biplane, which is the faster of the two, and most likely it was because I was, doing barrel rolls and just trying to fly correctly. With the bomber that moves quite a bit slower, didn't have that issue at all. But that's just my thoughts on Toy Soldier HD, and trust me, I'm not just saying this because they're giving me a code to give to you guys. I'm not saying it because they hooked me up with a review code and they're really cool people. Honestly, I've proven it before. I will be critical of a game because my loyalty lies to you guys. And I actually think that this game is a lot of fun and well worth your money and time. Especially if you like tower defense games. But like I said, I don't like tower defense games and I really like this game. So maybe it's one that you want to, pick up, put on the wish list, whatever. I don't know. Let me know in the comment section down below what your thoughts are on this game. And like I said, comment down below to enter to win a copy of this game, as well as sub, like, and of course show some love to my friends at Accelerate Games. But anyway, guys, that's it for me. Like always, I'm wishing you health, wealth, and above all, I hope you're truly happy because you make me happy. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.